Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 349. Poison Bottle. Due to Ray Steve's shriek, the weakened Miss Sharon also revealed a painful expression. However, she still managed to close her palm with much difficulty, causing the rays of light to be severed, which caused the illusory, mysterious bronze door to disappear. Klein knew that the situation was turning bad. Enduring his headache, he quickly took a step back and entered the fire. His figure quickly disappeared and reappeared in another explosion that happened in a different direction. He had just jumped out, in an attempt to strike back, when he saw Steve, the middle-aged man with the dark red cloak, stop in his tracks instead of chasing after him, as though he was waiting for something. Klein suddenly felt agitated. His head felt dizzy, and his stomach spasmed. He quickly weakened, but he had no idea why. Merrick, who had just recovered from the sharp shriek, also had an abnormal reaction. He constantly stretched out his hands to grab at himself, as if his body suffered an uncontrollable itch. He gasped for breath as he used his long, sharp nails to rip apart his clothes and left white streaks across his body. The more he scratched, the deeper it became, causing its redness to seep out. Sharon fell to the ground, but she couldn't stand again. Her blue eyes lost their focus, as though she couldn't see anything. Poison! She whispered the word. Not far from her, Steve looked at her tightly clenched fist. He seemed rather fearful of the bronze door that was covered with mysterious patterns and an indescribable smell. He didn't dare to recklessly make a move. In his right hand, he held the scarlet lunar corona, the crimson full moon that was releasing a cold glow. Using his left hand, he took out a brown, translucent glass bottle from his pocket, and he snorted. Biological poison bottle can be used to randomly create different kinds of toxins. As long as you open it, the poisons will gradually spread to its surroundings. It will be effective in less than a minute, and the symptoms will only become worse. In 4 minutes, if you don't leave the poison-filled environment, then the corresponding effects will be unpreventable, such as death. What a pity! I thought Jason would be able to hold on to this moment. Sharon, you wouldn't have been affected since a spirit body isn't afraid of poison, but unfortunately, there's the scarlet lunar corona here, which prevents you from switching states. Perhaps you can give up resisting and let me understand your hidden charms. He appeared to be leisurely introducing the abilities of the mystical item in his hand, as though he wanted to wait for Klein and company to completely lose their ability to resist before attacking. However, Tyre didn't understand his intention. Under the influence of the scarlet lunar corona, the irrational werewolf started his counterattack without hesitation. He threw himself forward, flailed his claws, and swiped across Merrick's body, tearing it apart. Clang! 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 The sound of nails tearing through steel sounded in succession, and Merrick's skin finally showed signs of bloody wounds. Klein pinched his forehead. It felt like his forehead was starting to heat up, but the negative effects weren't as bad as what Steve mentioned. It seems like the poison has been weakened by the sun brooch's constant purification and purging effect. Klein suddenly sneered. Are you planning on attacking us after we succumb to the poison? Why do you think I didn't use fireworks just now? Why do you think I relied on explosives? With so many explosions, I've definitely attracted the attention of others. The official Beyonders nearby are rushing here at this very moment. You don't have much time left. Steve turned his head to look at Klein, whose face couldn't be identified thanks to the paint that was smeared on it. He suddenly laughed and said, I forgot there's a bug that I can easily deal with. Don't worry, you'll definitely be dead before the people from the church arrive. Before he could finish his sentence, Klein suddenly raised the revolver in his right hand and shot out a purifying bullet. Steve moved his footsteps slightly, traversing several meters in turn. Along the way, he left afterimages behind. However, Klein's bullet didn't hit where he had aimed. Instead, it hit the middle of the clearing, piercing through the soil, and creating a loud commotion. A breeze of spirituality blew past, and both Merrick's zombie and Steve's shadow stopped moving at the same time. In a split second, they charged out rapidly, charging towards the center of the clearing like a pack of hungry dogs at mealtime. Steve, who was about to use arcane methods to control Klein and easily kill him, was stunned for a moment. Then, he revealed a puzzled and surprised expression. For some baffling reason, he discovered that he couldn't command the undead he controlled. It was a first for him. At the same time, Klein snapped his fingers, detonating a few more bombs and setting off scarlet flames that soared into the air in different locations. His figure leaped from one bonfire to the other, as he blinked towards the clearing's exterior. "You want to run?" Steve whispered. Just as he was about to turn incorporeal to chase after his target, he found that the zombies and shadows had dug out a square metal box and were fighting for the item inside. Soon, one of Shadows succeeded. Its body swelled, and seemingly gaining intelligence, it flew in another direction. "So that item is used to delay my actions and allow him to successfully escape." Humph, he still doesn't understand what a wraith and the scarlet lunar corona is capable of. Steve temporarily gave up on chasing Klein. Putting away the biological poison bottle, his body suddenly disappeared and appeared on a thin layer of ice that formed in a puddle of water. He relied on his terrifying speed to drag out an afterimage and arrived behind that giant shadow. Steve's eyes flashed with a dark green light. The shadow instantly dispersed without a sound, and the item in its hand dropped. The other zombies and shadows, completely disregarding the oppressive aura of the mighty existence, as they rushed over to grab it. Steve was more and more alarmed and curious. He discovered that his spiritual intuition couldn't draw any revelations from the object that had caused the rioting of the zombies and shadows. He stepped forward and grabbed the object with his left hand. It was a dark gold key ring. Hanging from it was an ancient and exquisite copper whistle. Beside the copper whistle hung a simple bronze key. They clung closely together, as they remained in Steve's pale palm. At the same time, Steve's scarlet lunar corona in his right hand was quietly emanating a crimson glow, like a miniature full moon. Before thoughts even surfaced in Steve's mind, a faint but very strange sound entered his mind, ripping at his nerves and scraping his scalp. "Ah!" Steve let out a miserable scream and fell from midair to the ground. The scarlet lunar corona, which he held in his hand, and the key ring with the copper whistle and key were sent flying at the same time. He struggled and twisted on the spot, his body bulging and protruding. There were arms that were as small as babies which grew out of his body, or a foul, light yellow liquid that sloshed inside his body. At this moment, a flame ignited again. Klein, who had escaped, leaped out and appeared in the path of the scarlet lunar corona. He didn't attempt to catch the mystical item. Instead, with a gentle flick, he diverted its trajectory, sending it flying toward the weakened Miss Sharon. Steve's cries of pain gradually died down, and the scarlet lunar corona accurately landed on Sharon. Sharon's figure instantly turned incorporeal, and the blue eyes that had lost their focus regained their luster. Clenching her right hand tightly, her left hand held the palm-sized accessory inlaid with a ring of dark rubies. Her body began to float. The scarlet lunar corona allowed its wielder to be immune to the influence of the full moon. Sharon was no longer weak. And in her spirit-body state, she wasn't afraid of the biological poison. At this moment, the zombies and shadows gathered together once again, fighting over the chain master key and Azek's copper whistle. Klein didn't care. He raised his left arm and pointed. The sun brooch on his chest flashed a dark golden glow and disappeared. An intense, bright, and holy light fell from the sky, shrouding the group of zombies and shadows that were fighting over it. In what seemed like daylight, the transparent and bizarre shadows quickly melted and disappeared. The pale and stinking corpses emitted black smoke first before they ignited and burned like candles. By the time the light disappeared, there was almost nothing left except for Azek's ancient and intricate copper whistle and the master key, which were both strung on an already blackened key ring. They lay there silently. Meanwhile, Sharon didn't care about Merrick, whose injuries were turning graver thanks to Tyre's attacks. Instead, she relied on her own ability to phase into mirror-like items to reach the thin piece of ice that Steve had previously used, and stepped out. She stretched out her right hand toward Steve, who was transforming into a monster, and opened it wide, aiming the palm of her hand at the enemy. Endless rays of light burst out and quickly intertwined to form the mysterious patterned bronze door. Creak! With a jarring noise, the small black hat on Sharon's head was blown away by a sudden gust of wind, and her carefully combed blonde hair cascaded down in a disheveled state. It was obvious that using the mystical item again was rather taxing on her. Creak! The mysterious bronze door produced a crack, and a series of shrill laughter, sobbing, and shouting echoed in the air. Arms either filled with teeth or completely without skin reached out wildly and grabbed at Steve, whose pustules were bursting one by one. The strange dark green vines that accentuated an infant's face and the slippery, illusory tentacles also bound the Sequence 5 powerhouse. Ah! Steve cried out again. The pale yellow pus, which flowed out, covered his entire body, allowing him to barely resist the pull. A bright red crack appeared on his face, and in it was a hole leading to a dark tunnel. At that moment, Klein raised his revolver and aimed it at him. Without any delay or hesitation, with his face disguised, Klein calmly pulled the trigger while wearing his half-top hat. Bang! Bang! With a flash of the sun brooch, 2 bullets filled with holiness accurately hit Steve in the head. Although they didn't pierce his skin or bones, they ignited resplendent flames, turning Steve into a bright torch. Ah! With another scream, Steve was pulled closer to the illusory bronze door. As Klein released the revolver cylinder, the shells fell to the ground, and he took out the metal box containing the Beyonder bullets. At the same time, he once again injected his spirituality into the sun brooch. 2. 1. A pure and flawless pillar of light fell from the sky and instantly hit Steve's body. Taking this breather, Klein inserted 3 purifying bullets and 3 exorcism bullets into the cylinder and snapped it shut. He aimed at Steve's head again, and with the flash of the dark golden brooch, he pulled the trigger hard, 6 times in a row. Bang! 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 Bang!